Alva was confined to a mental institution by her family, and as she thought she would be trapped there for life, a cold, stern man encountered her. He ordered his men to take her away. While Alva pretended to be insane, she wondered if the man would have such peculiar tastes as to seek satisfaction with a mentally ill person. The reason Alan brought Alva home was because she bore a striking resemblance to his sister. Alan was lost in memories. He was 9 years old when his sister killed someone to save him, and then, fearing trouble for her younger brother, she took her own life. Alan was curious if there could really be people who looked identical. His secretary reported to Alan that the girl they had brought back was recorded by the mental institution as suffering from schizophrenia, but her information was blank, suggesting someone had concealed her past. The secretary couldn't help but comment on how much she resembled the eldest miss, to which Alan responded, "If we can't find her identity, it doesn't matter. She's just a substitute anyway." Alva wondered whose substitute she could be. Suddenly, Alan began to undress in front of Alva, causing her heart to panic, but she maintained the appearance of a fool. Once Alan went to the bathroom, Alva decided she could not sit idly by. She had to find a way to leave the mansion. Her plan was to use Alan's influence to get out of the mental institution and then find an opportunity to escape. However, she underestimated Alan's capabilities. As the head of a top conglomerate, he had connections in both legitimate and criminal circles. The mansion was surrounded by bodyguards, and as Alva found an unguarded terrace preparing to jump down, she heard a noise from the bathroom. Her escape failed, and Alva did not want to be discovered so soon. She continued to feign insanity. Alan threatened the fool before him, saying that if she dared to try to escape without his orders, he would break her legs. Then, as the man leaned closer to Alva, just as she thought all was lost, Alan called out, "Sister, help me dry my hair." Alva knew whose substitute she was then. She obediently helped the man dry his hair. Alan spoke in the calmest tone, saying terrifying things. "If you can't dry his hair as he requires next time, then break your fingers and feed them to the dogs." He then instructed Alva to pat him, and Alan fell into a deep sleep. Alan dreamt again of the tragic events of that year and woke up startled, looking at Alva's sleeping face. He couldn't help but get closer. When he came to his senses, he scolded himself for being interested in a madwoman. Alan ordered his secretary to arrange for clean, willing women. Perhaps it had been too long since he had been with a woman, and he needed to vent his desires. Through the conversations of the servants, Alva learned that Alan would not return to the mansion that night, and she immediately formulated a plan. Playing the madwoman, she obtained sleeping pills, then drugged the servants. 5 hours later, she would return to the mansion, not intending to attract Alan's attention for the time being. Alva got in the car and headed to Senator Donnies' house, thinking to herself, "Dear family, after 3 years, do you miss me?" 3 years ago, Alva pleaded on her knees with her father not to send her to the slums, where she would surely die. However, Alex Donnie coldly stated that she was adopted only because a master had predicted Bess Donnie would face a calamity at the age of 18, and Alva Donnie was merely a shield for Bess's disaster. Bess condescendingly said, "We didn't want to send you to your calamity so soon, but Benno liked you, and it's your fortune to take my place." Later, Alva feigned madness in the slums and took refuge in a mental institution to find safety. Late at night, the Donnie family returned to their mansion. Alex asked Bess if she had been to Alan's corporation. Bess proudly replied, "Yes, if she could win over Alan, our family would be even more powerful. It's a pity I didn't see him today." Bess's mother, however, felt uneasy. "Aren't you with Benno?" Bess dismissed the concern, believing it was time to get rid of Benno, as the man was now of no help to the family. As Bess prepared to bathe, she sensed something was amiss. The house seemed haunted, and she soon screamed in terror at the sight of blood seeping from the walls. Alex summoned everyone in the house to investigate if anyone had entered the mansion that day. The servants all claimed they had noticed nothing unusual. At this point, Bess's mother speculated that the haunting might be the work of Alva's vengeful spirit. An enraged Bess shouted, "She was a coward in life, and now she's a cowardly ghost." Maliciously, Bess suggested that her father find a master to suppress Alva's spirit, condemning her to eternal hell and preventing her from going to heaven. After making all the arrangements for the haunting at the mansion, Alva happily wandered through the night market, finally enjoying the barbecue she hadn't had in 3 years. At the next table, some men were attracted to Alva's beauty and began to disturb her meal. They had no idea that Alva was not someone to be messed with, and they soon faced punishment. However, Alva decided to let them off the hook when she overheard the gangsters mentioning that they could forge documents. A smart woman always makes the most of her resources. Suddenly, the night market was cleared, and Alva saw Alan's personal secretary. In a panic, she disguised herself and was unexpectedly mistaken for a chef. Alva had no choice but to diligently grill food, waiting for Alan's arrival. The young master's entourage for a humble street stall was extravagant, leaving Alva feeling speechless. It turned out that Alan's new companion wanted to eat at a street stall, causing such a commotion. The woman continuously flirted with Alan. The next moment, as she exposed her thigh, Alan swiftly drew her gun and subdued the female assassin. Alva was awkwardly watching the scene, wondering if she should scream, but it seemed too late for that. Alan turned the gun towards Alva, asking if she wasn't afraid. Alva decided to flatter him, saying that with the top tycoon's son around, everyone would be safe. Then Alan ordered his secretary to prepare, and they would return to the old mansion. Alva was frightened, realizing the man was not to be trifled with. If he discovered she wasn't in the mansion, his forces would surely find her, and the consequences could be dire. Alva seized an opportunity to climb into Alan's trunk for a ride back. Hidden in the trunk, Alva listened to the conversation between Alan and his secretary. The secretary pleaded for a chance to make up for his mistakes, and Alan lazily instructed that he didn't like dramatic women. He preferred those with mental issues. Then Alan mentioned that compared to the woman tonight, the Alva in the old mansion was more appealing. Alan already knew the woman hiding in the trunk and deliberately said, "Shall we get rid of Alva?" As soon as the car stopped and Alan left, Alva quickly rushed back to the mansion. After the effects of the sleeping drugs wore off, the dozing servants woke up, panicking upon hearing Alan's return. Alan simply asked where Alva was, and the servants nervously replied, "Asleep in her room." When Alan went up and saw Alva's sleeping face, he deliberately pinched her nose. Alva had to wake up and pretend to be foolish. Alan didn't bother to talk and directly carried the woman downstairs. He wanted Alva to dine with him. Alva thought this was a good opportunity to be despised by Alan, so she deliberately made a mess while eating. Alan's comment surprised everyone. So cute. The secretary, witnessing this, could only think that his boss had peculiar tastes. Alan suddenly asked what Alva liked to eat, and the servant replied, "She's not picky." Alan's tone suddenly became stern, saying it was good that she wasn't picky, but she must not eat barbecue. Alva remained outwardly calm, but inside, she was already panicking. Had he recognized her from the night market? As Alva was contemplating whether to reveal the truth, Alan changed the subject, saying, "No point in arguing with a fool." He lifted Alva's wrist and asked his secretary, "Can this tracker be removed?" The bracelet on the woman's wrist was exclusive to the slums. Anyone in the city who spotted someone wearing it had the right to eliminate or deport them back to the slums. In this world, there was an unwritten rule that people from the slums were not allowed in the city. Removing the bracelet was no easy task, and the secretary could only reluctantly proceed with its removal. Secretly, Alva went to Alan's office and turned on the computer monitor. Indeed, she was keeping an eye on the Donnie family. She discovered that they were engaging in superstitious rituals with a master, and soon after, Anna called reporters to inform them that a prominent senator was leading superstitious practices. Alex's reputation plummeted. Alan had just disciplined his father's men, warning them, "If the old man dares to play around in my mother's mansion again, I won't hesitate to perform a castration surgery on him personally." As Alan was nursing his headache, his secretary informed him that they had found some information about Alva, and she was related to the Donnie family. The secretary also told his boss that the Donnie family had recently been exorcising ghosts, supposedly to suppress a vengeful spirit. Upon hearing this, Alan remarked that he was also quite hated, and he wondered if he would be suppressed after death. The secretary quickly comforted him, saying that the boss would eliminate those who hated him before death. Alan sneered, "Yes, so the little thing he keeps is equally intolerant of others' insolence." The secretary was puzzled, wondering when the boss had started keeping a pet. The Donnie family was caught up in a scandal, and their exorcism was deemed too malicious, leading to public outrage. Alex ordered Bess to find some well-connected young masters to vouch for her, as Bess had a better image and could claim that their family was deceived by a fake master. Despite her dissatisfaction, Bess had to agree. Bess had no choice but to continue her relationship with Benno, as only he could salvage her current reputation. Suddenly, Bess caught a glimpse of Alva's figure, which quickly vanished. Alva appeared behind Bess, who was so frightened that she fell to the ground. Bess knew that the woman in front of her was Alva, and she threatened to call her father to send Alva back to the slums. At that moment, Benno also saw the scene and asked Alva why she had disappeared for so long, as he had genuinely searched for her. Alva simply presented her ID, stating that she was not the Alva they spoke of. She was Anna. Even Bess began to believe her, as the Alva she remembered was timid and not as confident as the woman before her. Alva intended to give Bess a good scare, and wasn't ready to make a move just yet. As she prepared to leave, Bess stopped her, and Alva's counterattack left Bess drenched. Benno asked Alva for her contact information, but she did not provide it, waving goodbye as she left. However, Benno loudly announced that it was Bess's birthday party next week at the Starlight Hotel and invited Miss Anna to grace them with her presence. Alva's bracelet was finally removed, and the servant dressed her in a new dress before presenting her to Alan. The man, who had been playing games, stopped and pulled the girl into his arms, inviting her to play with him. Alva could only think the man was perverted. The servant picked flowers that had grown outside the manor, and when Alan learned of this, he said, "Dare to escape the manor, and you will be turned into flower juice. Those who dare to run away will be made into fuel for the flowers. Do not entertain thoughts of escaping from me. There is no place in Country A that I cannot find you." Alan gifted Alva an evening gown, and she decided to make use of it. Bess's birthday was approaching, and she intended to give her dear sister a grand gift. Upon learning that Benno was waiting for Alva, Bess's face contorted with anger. She planned to coax Benno away, intending to deal with Alva later, should she dare to show up. At that moment, Bess announced to everyone that she had not invited Alva. Alva had come to take advantage of their hospitality. She publicized that Alva was from the slums, causing a stir among the dignitaries at the party who feared being contaminated by the diseases they associated with Alva. Alan also had a drinking engagement at the Starlight Hotel, where everyone present was flattering him. The man was not swayed by such gestures. He knew that the assassination attempt at the night market was carried out by someone among them. He vowed to find the culprit and left the private room, only to see Alva surrounded by a crowd. It was then that the secretary realized Alva was not a fool, and Alan calmly observed the drama unfold, curious to see how his little thing would resolve the situation, instructing his secretary to be ready to assist Alva at any moment. Bess's clique cornered Alva, demanding she remove her coat to prove she hadn't stolen anything. Alva quipped, "If you don't find the missing items on me, you'll have to kneel and apologize." She then removed her coat, revealing the haute couture dress gifted by Alan. Those who recognized the dress knew Alva was not someone to be trifled with and suspected she had a powerful background. Bess, in a last-ditch effort, wanted to check Alva's wrist, only to find a jade bracelet there. Alva taught her so-called sister a lesson, and when someone at the venue tried to take Bess's side and punish Alva, Alva warned, "Anyone who dares to touch me will see their family vanish immediately." She declared herself a member of the Sealock family, and the hotel that day belonged to the Sealocks. Bess called the manager to verify Alva's claims. Initially skeptical, the manager had a change of heart after a phone call with the chairman, realizing Alva's significant status. Alva was then escorted to a private room for a video call, while the manager detained everyone else at the banquet. It turns out that Alva had become a leader in the slums, originally intending to lead the local people in a rebellion against the current system. Unexpectedly, she was rescued by Alan. Alva had once saved the patriarch of the Sealock family, but unfortunately, he couldn't take her out of the slums. However, it doesn't matter now because she has made it out. Alva asks the Sealock patriarch to repay his debt of gratitude today. Alva returned to the party like a queen, sitting at the highest seat. Bess's birthday banquet was ruined, and Bess was restrained by security. The clique that had been making a scene earlier knelt down, begging for mercy. Alex arrived with his bodyguards, realizing that offending the Sealock family was detrimental to his presidential campaign. He had to discipline Bess in front of everyone, admitting his failure as a father, and forced Bess to kneel and apologize. Alva lifted the girl's face and offered her a piece of cake before leaving with a flourish, saying, "Don't worry, Donnie family, this is just the beginning." On the other side, Alan had already dealt with the person who hired the assassin. He admired Alva's powerful performance and asked his bodyguards to send him all the videos and photos. Today was also Alva's birthday, but she could only celebrate alone with a drink. Unconsciously, Alva got drunk, and Alan kissed the intoxicated woman. The man arranged for a dozen luxury cars with fireworks to celebrate Alva's birthday. At this moment, Alva felt very happy. Alan kissed Alva again and whispered that as long as she behaves and doesn't run away, she will have everything she wants. When Alva woke up, she found Alan next to her. The first season ends here. Let's look forward to the second season together. Can Alva's ideals be realized, and how will she take revenge on the Donnie family? What happened when Alan was 9 years old, and why does his sister look so much like Alva? Why did the Donnie family adopt Alva to ward off disaster? We need to wait for the arrival of the second season to uncover all these mysteries. If the second season is released, we will be the first to review it.